Today we're looking at the election of 1876 and the Compromise of 1877. Hello, welcome to the Daily Bellringer. Please don't forget to subscribe and take a look at the questions down in the description. Also, don't forget to check out dailybellringer.com for more resources that go along with many of the Bellringer videos. In the years following the Civil War, the nation went into a time period of Reconstruction, attempting to piece the country back together after 4 years of bloody fighting. During this time, amendments were added to the Constitution to protect the rights of former enslaved African Americans and give them voting rights. All of this while there were strong racially motivated opposition from many southern states. Organizations such as the Ku Klux Klan formed during this time and sought to make sure African Americans did not receive rights that they were guaranteed by the federal government. Since the Civil War, the Republican Party had held control of Congress and, for the most part, the presidency, with Ulysses S. Grant as president from 1869 to 1877. However, Grant's presidency had been plagued with corruption and scandals, and that, combined with an economic depression in 1873, began to allow the Democratic Party to gain more power, and actually Democrats took control of the House of Representatives in 1874. Plus, many Northerners began to blame Reconstruction policies and the extension of rights to African Americans as being a contributing factor to the economic depression. Add to this the fact that the U.S. Supreme Court had made decisions stating that the 14th Amendment, which guaranteed basic rights to all U.S. citizens, only applied to rights guaranteed by the federal government and not by states. Then the Supreme Court went even further and said the 14th Amendment's guarantee of due process and equal protection of rights can be violated by a state, but could not be violated by an individual or a person. So now trying to bring anyone or an individual to trial, such as members of the Ku Klux Klan, and punish them for racially motivated violence and attempting to take away African Americans' rights, taking them to trial is nearly impossible. So it was in this environment that the election of 1876 took place. The Republican nominee was Rutherford B. Hayes, the governor of Ohio, and the Democratic nominee was Samuel Tilden, the governor of New York. In the election, Tilden won the popular vote by over 250,000 votes, but was short one electoral vote of the necessary 185 electoral votes to win. 3 states, Louisiana, Florida, and South Carolina, all had votes that were extremely close and were being disputed. Together, these states accounted for 19 electoral votes. So basically, whoever won these states would win the presidency. Unfortunately, the U.S. Constitution did not have a solution to the election, so now Congress began to debate what to do. The House was controlled by Democrats, while the Senate was controlled by Republicans. They agreed to create an election commission with 5 House members, 5 senators, and 5 Supreme Court justices. The commission would have 7 Democrats, 7 Republicans, and 1 independent. But Supreme Court Justice David Davis, who was the independent, dropped out and he was replaced by Republican Joseph Bradley. This now gave the Republicans the edge, and in March of 1877, the commission gave all 3 disputed states to Republican Rutherford B. Hayes, making him the new president. Now, you would assume that Democrats would be irate about this decision. However, there had been some hidden agreements that had taken place. As the commission looked at the election results, Rutherford B. Hayes met with leaders of the Democratic Party, and what they worked out became known as the Compromise of 1877. Hayes agreed that if he became president, he would pull back federal troops who had been in the South to ensure that Reconstruction policies were followed, and he would also name a Southerner to his presidential cabinet. He agreed to do this if Democrats did not argue against the commission's decision to make him president. Democrats also agreed to protect the civil rights of African Americans in southern states. So, after the inauguration of Rutherford B. Hayes in March of 1877, on April 24th of 1877, Hayes lived up to his end of the compromise and ordered the withdrawal of federal troops from the South. This withdrawal basically was the end of Reconstruction, and unfortunately, the Democratic Party did not live up to their part of the deal of protecting civil rights. Instead, democratically controlled southern states began to reverse as many Reconstruction policies as possible and took away as many rights as possible from African Americans. The election of 1876 and Compromise of 1877 resulted in racial segregation being imposed and the era of Jim Crow laws being put in place throughout the South. African Americans were even more heavily discriminated against in these states, and unfortunately the state governments upheld those decisions. So with that, hopefully you learned something, and thanks for watching.